Hello, hello, hello. Here we are, another episode of Coach to Influence, where I sit down with great sales leaders through a number of industries, talking through what works, what doesn't, our paths to success, and honestly hoping that you guys can walk away today with some actionable insights from people that have actually done the work. My guest today is Ian Grace, VP of Sales at Acreless. This gentleman has done it and seen it all. He started in the trenches at ADP. And for anybody who's been around the block a few times, you know that that's a baptism under fire. Then made his way through the ranks at several banks and financial service institutions, which is just sauce on the goose of baptism under fire. Made a name for himself at Automotive Mastermind before taking the reins at Acreless. And today we're going to talk through all things sales coaching and what's important in regards to finding coachable reps as early as possible. But before we dig into that, I always love asking guests, what brought you to sales, Ian?
Uh, you know, First of all, Joe, thanks for having me. I think I sort of like so many of us, I think I sort of ended up in it. I think I coming out of college in 2001, I graduated in May of '01. I wanted initially to be sort of a bond trader, like fixed income guy on Wall Street, and I had interned in that area, but at the time it just didn't sort of pan out when that job market up to that point in time was pretty brutal. It was the worst in about 20 years. And then so I said, I'm going to decide to move to closer to, from New York City where I was living and grew up to Rochester, which was closer to my college. And sales was just obviously sales jobs abound, right? No matter what environment or economy we're in, they abound. So I just sort of kind of, I'm an outgoing guy, smart guy. I figured I can make my way in sales. So kind of as you mentioned, I think it very much was a baptism of fire. I think I liken my time at ADP was interesting because ADP obviously well known, world's largest payroll provider, right? Everybody's heard of it. Well, the number two in the space is Paychex, and I sold ADP payroll in Paychex's headquarters in Rochester. So it was basically like trying to sell a Nissan or Toyota in Detroit in 1975. You know what I mean? It was not the most hospitable or welcoming environment if you're trying to sell payroll when everybody was buying local and everybody believed in paychecks and what Tom Galsano was doing for Rochester. The amount of places I got thrown out of, Joe, or the phone hung up on me when I was going, left, right, and across the street and doing my foot prospecting. I remember times where I would go to ask people, hey, listen, happy to hear you with paychecks. Here's my business card, right? And, should anything change? No, we're all set. Hey, listen, nobody's perfect. If they change their price on you, if you see a dip in service, anything changes at all, here, just take my business card. You can keep it on file. Use it if you need to. No, we're okay. Hey, listen, I've got 100 of these in a box in my car. You could take this business card out of my hand and throw it out in front of me. Just take it out of my hand. And, nope, we're all set. So it was sort of that kind of environment, which for good and for bad, it was my first sales job. And then I went out of that into kind of the retail automotive space, which 100% commission type of job. So I think my first two sales jobs were lessons in grit and sort of resilience and overcoming objections and that sort of thing, which in a way, in the long run, couldn't have been a better sort of proving ground.
Appreciate that. For anybody that doesn't understand what a business card is, it is a takeaway QR code with your contact information.
Right, yes. I forget the dinosaurs that we are that we don't use business cards anymore.
Yeah, right. It's funny, I actually found a Rolodex the other day.
Ah, yeah, old school.
So, baptism under fire, you're living in a rejection-based world. What was your first dip into the coaching world? How'd you do?
Into which world?
Into being a sales coach, being
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
being that frontline guy.
Yeah, so I think, I got into my first sort of people leadership role when I was about 28. So, I sold from 21 to 28. So I was about 6.5 years or so into my sales career. And certainly in the beginning, like many first time sales managers, I was certainly not a sales leader. I was definitely a sales manager. And it was definitely also an environment which I was pressing and trying to achieve the goal by will, Joe, more so than actually managing people or helping them get better. It was more like, hey, Joe, if you were working on my team, it was, Joe, oh, okay, you know what? Let me just do this. Right. So it's like, rather than help Joe learn how to sell, it was, let me just move Joe out of the way. Joe can watch me do it and I'll just take care of it and we'll get the number because I basically sold it, right? And that's that's a bad sales manager. It's not even being a sales leader, but it's being a sales manager, but it's being a bad sales manager of that, right? So I think part of that too was I was very much an I and a me and a my guy, my number, my team, right? That sort of thing. And when I started to not think that way and started to try to be more of a leader instead of just a sales manager and become more of a we, us, our sort of mindset, I think that's and for good or for bad, that didn't really happen until I was probably 35, right? So that's a good chunk of time where I was just succeeding being a mediocre, admittedly probably mediocre sales manager, before it sort of clicked and became something different.
Can we talk about that a little further? Because I know a lot of sales leaders today, or sellers who lead their teams performance wise, now find themselves leading a team and can't quite differentiate. Would you mind talking that a little further? Because as you speak to it, I agree. There's a difference between a manager and a leader.
Yeah.
And what would you give to the new guys and gals that have just, knocked the cover off the ball as an SDR or an AE and now find themselves with the mantle of leadership upon them?
Yeah, I think the difference between the two comes down to what you're focused on or your mindset, right? So I think a sales manager or a strictly sales manager is somebody that is really just solely driven by I need to achieve my number, right? It's just the number. Hit the number. Now, it went from being as an individual contributor, my number, to as a sales manager, our number or the number, right? But when you're solely focused on just hitting that, I think that sort of keeps you in that relegated in that sales manager role. When you evolve or you expand your mindset and your approach to be, well, not only do I want to achieve the number, but I want to develop people, right? I want to develop them. I want to help them achieve their why. I want to help them grow and be a mentor and to help them, be leaders or, future leaders, right? Like judging yourself not by just hitting the number, but I hit the number, but how many people did I promote? Right? Like how many people did I develop? How many, glasses of water did I fill? Right? How many empty glasses did I pour water into to fill their cup and make them better? I think that's the sort of fundamental difference. And if you approach it, I don't think a sales manager is a sales leader, but I think a great sales leader is both. Because if I'm ultimately developing my people and I'm caring about them and I'm taking an interest, which I'm a servant leader first, I'm taking an interest in what's important to them and what they're trying to achieve in their career, and I'm developing them and teaching them those skills, invariably they're going to hit their number, right? So, one time the sales manager might just be focused on the number. I'm focusing on the people and the number. But if I do it right with the people, it'll be right with the number.
No. It's funny you say that because a lot of sales leaders think they're coaching when they're really managing. And I'm curious how you draw that line. And, you had mentioned it was several years before you got it right. What was the cost of getting it wrong?
I think it was just wasted years, to be honest with you. Sort of, I'm a big quote guy, and certainly one of the quotes is from a movie that probably, as a New York Italian, you'll know, Joe, Bronx Tale, right? And He says there's nothing worse in life than wasted potential, nothing sadder in life than wasted potential. Sonny says to see in that, right? Actually filmed up the block from my house in Astoria. But, you know, that to me is always been a sort of underlying or driving thought, right? Like, don't waste your potential. And I would say to you, those years, those, you know, probably 6 or 7 years, that was wasted potential years. That's what it cost me. Like, I think I could, I might, I've achieved a lot. I'm very grateful, supremely grateful for the path that I'm on and when it happened. But maybe I could have done certain things faster or better if some of this had clicked for me sooner.
Okay. So, I'm all about helping people with actually things that they can walk away from.
Hmm.
So, as we talk to the young sales leaders out there, if you had to strip it down to three high leverage coaching skills, which ones move the needle fastest for somebody that's trying to impress the best practices on a new team?
Yeah, I think first, if you were to think about it in layers, it starts with hiring, right? Like, you know, if you're a new sales leader and, you know, sales manager into the role coming into, you know, and you're looking to build your team, number one is hiring the right people. So, what are the things that I think about when I'm looking to hire people? Is I sort of think about four C's, right? So, character, chemistry, coachability, and then you could either call it capacity or competence, right? So, you know, character, are they a good person? You know, do they have integrity? Do they work hard? Do they have a strong work ethic? You know, chemistry, will they get along with the team? Do they fit into the culture of the company? You know, are they a good egg or a bad egg? Are they selfish or are they a team player, right? You know, coachability, that's a big one. And you and I have talked about that, you know, when we were getting to know each other, but being coachable is not just somebody that says, "Oh, okay, great. Joe gives me the feedback. I accept Joe's feedback and I don't get defensive or anything." That's half. But the other half is doing something with it, right? So if you know, I look at feedback as a true gift, and it's like if I'm giving Joe a gift, it's feedback, it's a bright yellow box with a big red bow on it. That's me giving you the coaching, right? If you don't take the coaching and implement it, then you are just going to that window over there behind me and taking the box that I gave you in front of me, opening the window and throwing the gift out the window, right? That's
Well,
what you're
don't forget,
doing.
they smash it against the window once or
Right,
twice because they miss it. They need to
right.
see you smash it in front of
Right,
them and then
exactly,
toss
right?
it
So,
out the
so
window.
so you need to not just be able to receive the feedback, but implement the feedback. And then the last piece being, you know, the capacity or competence, right? Like looking for people like, are they smart? Are they well spoken? Do they get it? You know, do they have the ability to learn? So learn and learn quickly. So if you think about those four C's, again, right? Like character, chemistry, coachability, capacity or competence. You think about those four things and hire and ask your interview questions around around those areas, right? So that's kind of first, right? Is hiring the right people. I think secondarily, as a new leader and sales manager, what you want to do is care. It's another C, right? Care about them, right? Truly take an interest in what makes them tick, what's important to them, why are they doing what they do, where they come from, what's their background, truly as a person, understand them, because that will help you better coach them, right? I think, you know, I'm very big on personality profiling and understanding both myself for my own, you know, self and for those that I work with, you know, so understanding their personality type, whether it's DISC or Enneagram or Clifton Strength Finder, you know, Right Path, there's, you know, Myers-Briggs, there's so many of these out there, right? But, you know, implementing something along those lines I find helps create a shorthand, because I'm a high eight Enneagram, if I'm talking to a two Enneagram, that's a different. I may as well be speaking Italian. They're speaking Chinese. So having the adaptability as a coach to understand them as a person, what makes them tick, what's important to them, and how to speak to them with that care is important. And then I think, you know, third would be, you know, that it's sort of, it's never stops, right? It's embracing a growth mindset for you, and implementing one for the team and for anybody that you're trying to coach, right? You want to instill a culture of growth mindset. It doesn't matter if I'm 45 as I am today or 21 and starting out my career. I want to be better today than I was yesterday and better tomorrow than I was today, right? And I think that was also something I didn't really get around to embracing until later in my career. And I think that would certainly be something I would urge people to try to embrace personally, and certainly to instill in others that they work with.
Appreciate that. So you had to start a new sales team today. What were the skill sets you're specifically looking to dive into to make sure that everybody has an even playing field?
Yeah, I mean, the skill sets I would look for is number one, is outgoing, charismatic sort of personality, right? Especially in today's virtual world. So often everything we're doing now is remote, or hybrid, and selling is remote and via Zoom or Teams or et cetera, right? So having some charisma to be able to maybe come through the screen, be an animated person, I think it does go a long way. It's not absolute, but it does go a long way. I think another one is grit, right? A big thing obviously great book, Angela Duckworth, right? But I think that that's a huge thing. I do ask questions around that. I do look for that because I think that's a fundamental difference between winners and losers in sales is it's understanding that it is a rejection game, much like baseball. It's a game of failure. And so you will succeed a lot less than you fail. And so you have to understand that from the beginning and prepare yourself for that, and and have the moxie and the resilience and the grit and the fortitude to push through the 9 no's to get to the one yes, or sometimes the 19 no's to get to that 20th call and that
Man, I'm
20th
at 900. Can I work for you one day, man?
right.
19, 9 no's? Sign me up.
Exactly, right. So I think those are the certainly the big things I think about. And if I was hiring out of school, younger folks, right, I'd be looking for that personality. I'd be looking for that grit, and I'd be looking for just sort of drive, right? Like I'd want to look for signs of drive in them, in their whether it's in their previous work experience or in their college experience, in their life experience. Give me examples where you've shown drive, right? A big thing, as many of us do, is I certainly have a soft spot for athletes, high school or college athletes, because they tend to have drive. They tend to be coachable. They tend to, be resilient and have grit, right? They tend to be able to take feedback well, so that's certainly small sort of anecdotal things that I think about as well.
Okay. You had mentioned the future, however briefly, and I'm curious. And it's a sort of a loaded question because I do have an AI-enabled sales coach, but I'm curious what role you see AI playing in the growth and mentorship and coaching for reps over the next few years, and if you agree that humans are always going to be essential,
Well, I'd
at
like
least to the coaching of
yeah,
reps,
yeah.
at least to the coaching of reps.
I'd like to believe that we'll always need salespeople, sales leaders, strategic leaders, etc., right? And that we're not all replaceable by Skynet, right?
Oh,
But
wait, you mentioned Skynet. All hail our AI overlords. Thank you for your generosity and hospitality.
and
Please continue,
continue
my friend.
and your continued mercy.
Yes,
Um,
and benevolence. Don't forget
yes,
benevolence. They love
benevolent mercy.
benevolence.
Right? Yes. No, I honestly, I think there's a huge opportunity with that one, Joe. Like, how impactful I've been diving into some of this lately, and what is out there from a coaching perspective or role playing perspective, being able to go through cold calls or discovery calls, mock sales calls, mock engagements with the use of AI or against AI, and receiving that feedback is huge. It can't not expedite that learning curve that what you and I spent maybe in the beginnings of our career shadowing people and just you know shut up, don't say anything, sit tight, kid, don't say a word, just watch and learn, right? That's the kind of
Or the flip side of that, you're going to fail a lot before he says
right,
yes. You're going to
right,
burn through relationships and kill accounts before the
right.
first guy says yes. Please
Yes,
continue.
right. Yeah, so I think there's a huge place for AI coaching in today's world, and sales enablement in today's world, because that like you said, that learning curve is faster and it's riskless, right? The learning curve is going to historically was going to be whatever 3 to 6 months. Well, now we have the opportunity to, but it was always at the risk or loss of, like you said, relationships or missed opportunities and at bats with certain clients or existing customers. Um, Today, you can use AI. You can do that ad nauseum, right? Like I could sit in my office and I can go through 8 hours of AI cold calling scenarios every day. So what may have taken me 3 months and cost me, 10 opportunities, I can now do, in a week, and literally spend, a week or a month just hammering through practice sessions before I get that first at bat with somebody real. And now I'm going to be much more, my samurai sword is going to be much sharper than, sort of that wooden sword I would have gone to battle with, 10 years ago.
For the record, Ian has not used my tool yet. I know
No.
because he's never logged into freemium, but he has just described ad nauseum exactly what we do.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to drill onto that. People that follow this podcast know that we give them the at bats. So let's have a little fun now, because we're talking through all the serious stuff. Let's have fun for a few minutes.
Sure.
I'm going to throw a couple of silly questions at you,
Okay.
and we'll see how you do. Biggest sales pet peeve.
Shallow discovery.
Okay.
Just, sort of like I ask you a question, I'm ping ponging around, trying to find your problem or your pain, and I kind of hit on it, but rather than go deeper and tie that pain to a dollar impact problem, I just sort of jump to the next question. And stay sort of shallow in my discovery. Whereas obviously, if once I sort of like an old man on the beach, with a metal detector, every discovery question I ask is a pass with the metal detector, and boop. Once I hit something, it's not time to keep going. It's time to put the metal detector down and grab the shovel and look for the gold, right? So that's what I, when new AEs or even especially experienced AEs go shallow with their discovery, that drives me up a wall.
What's one question you wish every AE would ask that you don't hear enough of?
What's your timeline? I think we all get caught up in the moment. You get happy ears. Everything's going well. The demo went well. They won a test. The proof of concept went well. They didn't throw up on the numbers I gave them, right? It's like, but what happens after yes, right? They've said yes to the price. Now what, right? Like that between the yes and the signature, that's where all the deal slippage happens,
You
right? Like,
nailed you nailed something right there. Two words people never ask. Now what?
right.
What's next?
Yep. Yep.
Sounds stupid, but stupid is a stupid dozen sales. You got to break it down idiot style because you're having a conversation with another human being.
Absolutely.
Why make it all leasy
Yeah. Leave
doily?
nothing to chance.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, next one. A sales buzzword you wish would disappear forever.
Um,
You got one.
I
I can
would,
see from that smile on your face. Say them
I
all
mean,
then.
in today's world, it's AI, right? Like, no
Okay.
offense to it is the certainly. I can't even say it's the flavor of the month, but it is certainly the flavor of our next phase of evolution as in the business world. But it is everywhere. I think everything is AI, and it should be and it needs to be, but it is like everything. So I think sometimes it's just whether people do what you do, Joe, and are truly, kind of utilizing AI, or at the most cursory, shallow level, everybody's attaching themselves to the concept of AI, and it's sort of to me as where we at Acreless truly have a very, very woven, sort of interconnected usage of AI into everything we do. It's like mildly insulting to me that everybody uses the buzzword, whether they are actually doing the work with AI or they're just sort of just very superficially doing it.
It's funny you say that because I see that quite a bit. I'm going to create an AI bot that's going to teach me to sell. I've got an AI bot that's going to help me close. But power without responsibility is like a king without a crown.
Yeah,
The fact that you can prompt something to do something doesn't mean it's doing it right, nor does
right.
it mean that it's got the knowledge to actually help you. At least that's how I envision it, because That's the bad rap I get from organizations. Well, my SDR just trained a bot and how to do exactly what you do. Did it, or does it have 200 plus years of sales training built into it? Um,
To this thing of how many people do you encounter, especially even in the competition within your space, where you can clearly see, and this is going very much to what I was saying, like the superficialness of things, where you can clearly see what they've done is just sort of put this very thin veil in front of a chat GPT like sort of situation. And it's sort of like just putting lipstick on a pig. Like you're just, this isn't real. You know what I mean? Like this is, all you're doing is putting a different wrapper on a portal to ChatGPT. Like I need to pay somebody to do that. I can just go to ChatGPT myself, right? Like
it's funny
what
you
more?
say that. It's hysterical you say that. One of our largest competitors did exactly that. And I've got nothing bad to say about them other than the fact that two engineers that train a model on how to teach them how to sell does not make them a sales coach.
Right.
It makes them great engineers, don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
I'd rather, if I'm going to deal with any kind of coach, just like I'm sure you had real human coaches in your day, if they haven't done the work and can't speak to the problem, I don't care about all of the bells and whistles that they have under them. All right, let's have some more fun. The most unusual place you've taken a sales call from.
The beach in the Dominican Republic. Um, I was, we were actually on a company. It was like a company revenue, sort of a President's Club type of trip. And I remember, my phone rang. I saw it was, someone. I answered the phone. My wife is sitting next to me, toes in the sand, and she's like, uh, why are you taking that call? We're on the beach.
Call on the beach.
This, Joe. I went, we're on the beach because I take this call. You
Yeah,
know, is one of those sorts of things, right? And I do believe that. Like, that's another lesson I was talking. I've some younger AEs that I work with, that I have the pleasure of working with every day. They are the things I talked about. They are driven, they are coachable. But we were just talking about just how some of them were taking vacation because it's the summertime, and how I just said, like, guys, we're not, factory workers. We don't get paid the same. We're not salaried, right? Like, yes, there's salary, but really the deal doesn't stop because you're on vacation. Don't
yeah,
let,
they don't
don't
care.
lose, don't lose momentum because you're on vacation. Like, find a pocket of an hour or two each day, to keep your deals moving. Because if you don't, when you get back a week from now, you're going to find what was a green light might be a yellow or a red light. And so
Especially in
don't,
this market, they move on quick. You don't answer an email, 30 seconds later, they've got a DocuSign in their inbox.
right, exactly. So that's a big one.
Okay. What's your go-to pump-up song for a big pitch or a big meeting with your team?
I don't really do, and this is maybe me being just too dry or fuddy-duddy. I don't do so much with the team. Maybe I should do more for myself. It's probably sort of one of those things like, what would be your walkout song if I was a baseball player type of thing? It would probably either be like "Kickstart My Heart" by Motley Crue, or "Thunderstruck" AC/DC. Certainly dating, aging myself at 45 with that, but that's what I would kick it old school with.
If you don't want to try my freemium, you can sing a couple of bars of AC/DC right now and you're off the hook.
That's okay. Thanks.
Um, all right, last question. Two basic questions. Who would play you in a movie about your sales career?
You know, I don't know. I think if I was lucky, somebody handsome. If it was more real to life, some character actor. That currently right now is a waiter on at a diner on Broadway.
Okay, here's the question I've been dying to ask you all day. Best pizzerias in Long Island.
Long Island, it's been a while since I've been on Long Island, but
And that's my problem. It's been a minute since I've been off of it. I know all the Brooklyn
yeah,
spots, Queens,
yeah,
Manhattan, but Long Island, man. You
that's a
said
tough.
your old man had a few. I was hoping
He
you'd come to
did.
this call
Yeah,
prepared.
he. I was trying to think. He couldn't remember because he's weird. Like, he's more easygoing about it. He's just like, just go whatever's around. Um, I don't know. On Long Island, I've lived off of the island or out of New York City for like 23 years now. So Unfortunately, in if you want to say Long Island is Queens, I would say Rose's Pizza in Maspeth on 69th
Okay,
Avenue. That would be
good one.
obviously that's Queens and the boroughs, not so much Long Island, but that would be my go-to if I could go go get a slice of pizza right now, and I could walk in there, that would be what I would do.
Come on, meet you there. It'll only take you 3 hours. It'll take me 2.5.
Sure, yeah. That's the sad thing. It would probably take me 5.5 hours to get there,
Mm.
and conceivably for you, it would almost round trip. It would take you the same to get from your house
Yeah,
there and
hell
back.
yeah. Ian, I can't thank you enough. This has been a blast. I really appreciate the insights that you're sharing with a lot of the young sellers out there, especially those that have their sights on the roles that we currently have, but don't realize the investment and the sacrifices that they need to make, not only in themselves, but of those teams that they've been given the honor and the privilege of leading. So thank you very, very much for bringing some actionable insights to the table, some fun with it as well, and I'm sure your DMs are open, if I'm not mistaken, to any young bloods out there that have some questions about how to do this. My
Yeah,
man has seen it all and done it all. There is no guru nonsense here. Just 20 years of actually doing the work. It's probably why you don't see Ian posting a lot. It's always my belief that influencers aren't experts and experts aren't influencers. My man's too busy doing the work. Ian, thank you again, my friend, and look forward to chatting with you soon.
yeah. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate you.
Take care.